This is Dolany TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and welcome to the beginning of fall. Folks, the Crossfield Slow Pitch Recreational League is done for yet another year. The 2022 campaign up and over with, or it should be. Quite honestly, I'm not at the Diamonds, I'm in my basement, so couldn't tell you what's happening at the Diamonds if things have wrapped up. I assume, all things considered, that the Kraken have taken home another title for another year in a row, considering they had a perfect season throughout the year, having a pretty phenomenal year. So I'd assume that's how things finished up, just based on what I know of the Crossfield Mixed Rec League there in Crossfield. However, folks, well, that also means that the Elks Demolition Derby, which I posted on the community tab the other day, is up and done with for another year. So when you look at my summer calendar of things, the summer of Tyson is up and done with, folks. So, well, you see, you know what that means? We transition to that. We get back on that. Now, does that mean I'm getting back full time? Probably not. Depends how much time I even have for myself this winter. Now, knowing that I've got a lot more friends than I used to, making a lot more people to hang out with than I had before in the winter time. So we'll see how things all pan out. Hear the phone going off. I don't even know what that's about, but I assume it's something to do with something. But end of the day, why am I doing this video? It's not to tell you that the summer of Tyson's over, not to tell you all about the Kraken winning the mixed recreational slow pitch league in Crossfield, Alberta. It's not to tell you that I'm looking forward to watching the Oilers again even. It's simply put, I got to address a comment that kept getting repeated on the Patrick Kane video the other day. And yes, obviously, yeah, I have a history of turning off comments. Why? Because sometimes it's just so mind-numbing. Folks, the comment I kept getting is, why acquire Patrick Kane when we need to upgrade our defense? That's the simple end of it. And for a regular fan, I get that. That is a regular complaint about the Oilers. Year in, year out, year after year. However, let me read to you who we have on this roster for defensemen. And you tell me if the Oilers seriously have a defense problem. Darnell Nurse, Tyson Barrie, Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, Slater Cuckoo's still around somehow, Evan Bouchard, and Philip Broberg. That's your crop of guys on the NHL roster according to Cap Friendly at current. Now, obviously, two, right, is you go down to the minors. You've got Phil Kemp, Dmitry Samorukov, Vincent Desharnais, and Marcus Niemelainen. Okay? So at worst, you've got stellar depth organizationally built from the draft up and developed. That's at worst what you've got. Secondary to that is the reason why I feel like this is such a common theme situation is, yes, people are not happy with the Darnell Nurse contract. You give them Darnell Nurse at $5 million, all of a sudden he is the best paid defenseman in the NHL, I guarantee you, in 90% of people's eyes. That said, secondary to that is the Oilers defense always gets the rap of, it's not what you've done for me the whole time, it's what you've done for me lately. And of course, Darnell Nurse being injured as he was for the final 2 months of what the Oilers season was this year, he gets the rap of, he's a terrible defenseman, all he can do is flop, blah blah blah, which for the most part of his career has been true. However, when you watch the season, especially under Jay Woodcroft, watching him develop alongside Cody Ceci into a pairing that really can be a top tier pair on a team like the Oilers was phenomenal. And unfortunately, he gets injured. He's moving at 30% at best, and all of a sudden everyone thinks the guy is just next to cooked because he sucks. But reality is, folks, reality is Darnell Nurse is paid as your number one defenseman, and the Darnell Nurse you can get when he is fully healthy and on his game is a number one defenseman for this team. I'm not saying in the NHL. I will be very careful with my words. Time has learnt me well. However, Darnell Nurse on this team is capable of being a number one defenseman. Problem is that good enough for everybody else? No. Screw everybody else. We're Oilers fans. We don't need to worry about the opinion of a Flames fan or the opinion of a Ducks fan or an opinion of somebody down in Florida. Screw that. Listen to your gut. Now, secondary to that, yeah, obviously Tyson Barrie, not the world's greatest defenseman by any means. However, you play him right, you deploy him right, he doesn't cost you. We saw that last year under Jay Woodcroft. If you deploy Tyson Barrie correctly, he is a plus defender in terms of his offense outweighs his defensive mistakes, and it allows you to actually supplement having him in the lineup. Cody Ceci, what's there to be said there? Cody Ceci simply had a season for the ages as somebody who had the rap of Cody Ceci entering Edmonton, right? Everybody thought this $3.25 million contract was just a boneheaded move by Ken Holland. Well, you know what? If you want to say Darnell Nurse was not your best defenseman in the regular season, you know who was? Cody Ceci. And end of day, for a guy signed to 3.25 to be your top pair right-hand shot defenseman for most of the season, guide you into the playoffs, and just be a great player all around that does not help, does not cost. You don't want to notice defenders. Cody Ceci was that guy. Sometimes, even myself, I had to double take. Who was that making that play? And you watch on the replay and you see that number 5 and it's like, oh, Ceci with another nice play. That was Cody Ceci last year. Brett Kulak, right? Everyone's talking about, oh, wow, Duncan Keith, huge loss for the Oilers. Guys, you got to remember this time last year when we were talking about Duncan Keith being an Edmonton Oiler, we were saying how much he was going to drag the team down. Now all of a sudden you're talking about him being a big loss, big shoes to fill. I'm sorry. What we watched in the NHL playoffs, especially in the last 2 rounds as Nurse's injury really piled up on him, is that Brett Kulak is capable of being a big-time leader on the blue line. He was, in my humble opinion, the Oilers' best defenseman in the NHL playoffs last season. Okay? And you can fight me on that, and I've had guys tell me, oh, well, that's 20 games of the playoffs. It means nothing over the course of a regular season. I'm sorry. If I know that I can get that out of Brett Kulak in the playoffs, man, if he is a steady Eddie second pairing defenseman in the regular season, I am feeling dang comfortable. And you know what? End of day 2, if Brett Kulak wants to be a shut it down second pair defenseman with Cody Ceci, you know what? Again, the problems that people are saying exist don't exist. I'm going through this piece by piece to show you that there really aren't any problems. It's just an age-old criticism of the Oilers meant to keep Oilers fans from feeling comfortable with what they have, because why actually enjoy having a good team when you can just always nitpick and find holes everywhere you look, right? Slater Cuckoo, pretend that name's not even there, okay? Let's just move on. Evan Bouchard, my biggest frustration is everybody knows how good this kid is offensively. Everybody knows this kid is phenomenal. And he is 22 years old. If you're going to tell me a kid with as much offensive upside as Evan Bouchard has no room to grow and will not grow and develop more so than he did last year defensively, you are wrong. Evan Bouchard is not a Tyson Barrie 2.0. Evan Bouchard is a big, rangy kid, skates well, clears the puck well, moves puck, whatever you want to say, shoots the puck well. And guess what? End of day, Evan Bouchard is your number 1 right shot defenseman this season. I don't care, oh, I don't like how he defended last year, he got turned around too much. Guess what? He's 22. Guys, what were you doing at 22? What the heck were you doing at 22? I can guarantee that at least 50%, not 50%, 50 people who are watching this video right now, listening to me talk to you right now, at 22, were living with their parents or with their buddies, not paying rent, drinking every single day of the week, and barely showing up to work. That's what I can guarantee 50 people who watch this video were doing when they were 22. Evan Bouchard is developing into a number 1 right shot defenseman in the NHL at 22. Yes, he's going to make mistakes. End of day, you live and die by learning if you're going to draft and develop. And that's what the Oilers are doing. Philip Broberg is the same exact thing. You talk about the future of the Oilers defense. Is Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard a number one pair. Yeah, okay, Darnell Nurse is going to be around for a while, but by the time we get to 2027, 2028, especially with the rumors about the salary cap exploding over the next 5 years, guess what? 9.25 million? Darnell Nurse is a low mid-tier defenseman paid, right? That's what we're talking. You watch what some of these guys are going to get 2 years from now. You watch what Evan Bouchard gets on not his next contract, his contract after that. You watch what that comes out to. It is not going to be below 9.25 million, and that even if Evan Bouchard just turns out to be Darnell Nurse, it is going to be more than 9.25 million. Same with Philip Broberg. So here's the thing, right? You can poke all the holes you want in my theories, and that's great. That's great for you to debate that. However, it is just a point of frustration with me that it's an age-old criticism to crap on the Oilers' defense because, simply put, it always has been doable. This year, I'm sorry. The Oilers have done what they've needed to do. Keeping Brett Kulak was the only thing they needed to do on the defense, and they've done it. That's huge. Because guess what? This defense, with Darnell Nurse, with a torn hip flexor, may I remind you, and who knows what other injuries to everybody else, was able to get into 4 games against the Stanley Cup champions, Colorado Avalanche. I'm sorry. Colorado was a team of destiny. Daryl Sutter knew that the night the playoffs started. And if everyone's going to talk up Daryl Sutter as a god of a coach, guess what? When the man's right, you credit him, and you can't even blame the Oilers for getting swept because it was a waste of 8 days, in the immortal words of Daryl Sutter. So, end of the day, this Oilers defense, you add a guy like Patrick Kane to the offense, is good enough to win you a Stanley Cup. Yeah, sure, some other players are going to show up for other teams too. But guess what? It's a battle of the last man standing. And Darnell Nurse could barely get out of bed. So, take it as you will. I know I'm going to hear it in the comment section, and that's fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. However, I just had to get that off my chest. And now, my friends, we watch the show. Let's enjoy.